Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to share a very frugal project with you. I decided to start a new feature called Frugal Friday where I'm going to try to share really inexpensive tips and tricks. And today I'm going to show you how to make a simple box. Now this one here I made to fit A2 cards so I could give a gift set of cards if I wanted to, which is something I do quite frequently for my mom. And then I also took a Christmas card and made a box out of that. So the way you go about it is the same way, and I'm going to show you how to do it today, and you can make any size box you want as long as you have paper big enough to do it. I highly recommend you have a scoring board, but if you don't, you can simply use like a butter knife and a ruler to make your score lines, but a scoring board does help out. And the first thing you need to do is determine what size of box you want. So the first one I made, I actually took a sheet of cardstock and I cut it in half, and I just made sure that that one side was 1/8 of an inch smaller. Okay, so the top side was like, you know, 8.5 by 5.5, and this one would have been 1/8 of an inch smaller, basically. I can't do fractions in my head, and it works out really well, and that's what you would get from one sheet of cardstock cutting it in half. So then I thought I want to do one so I can fit my my greeting cards. So what I did was I measured the envelope, and because I knew my greeting cards would be smaller than the envelope, and then I took the envelope size and I just added this was like 4.5 by 6, so then I just added 2 inches all to that, so 6.5 by 8, and that gave me the bottom of the box. And then I added 1/8 of an inch to that to make the top of the box, so 6 5/8 and 8 1/8. So you can see how my little working out the fractions there on the bottom of that page. Yeah, I can't do that in my head. So we're going to do a box for a 5 by 7 card. So I measured the envelope for my 5 by 7. The envelope was 5.5 by 7.5. So I need one piece of cardstock that is 7.5 by 9.5 for the bottom. And I'll put this stuff in the video description. So just remember, you want to make your paper 2 inches bigger than the size you want your box to be. And then for the lid, I cut a piece of paper 7 5/8 by 9 5/8. So this gives me the 2 inch bigger than my envelope, and this gives me 2 1/8 inch bigger than my envelope, basically. So you can see here, if I put these papers together, how the lid is just a 1/8 of an inch bigger than the bottom. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to score. Now you're going to score on the good side, or the side that you want to be on the outside of your box. Okay, I'm going to score at 1 inch. I turn it, and I'm just going to do 1 inch from each side. Okay, that just makes it easy. And since I'm butting it up against the same corner and scoring on the same mark, I know I'm going to have a nice even piece. And then what you're going to do is you're going to snip on those score lines. It might be easier to see on the back side, but I'm just cutting my tabs here. Now this is also important. So this is the right, this is going to be the outside, it's going to be the side we fold away from. So you always fold away from the dent and the bumps on the paper. The bumps on your score line are on the inside. So even when you're doing a card, you want the bumps on the inside. So with the right side facing you, you're going to put adhesive on each of the tabs. I'm going to use some score tape. Actually, this is generic score tape, but score tape, any sort of double-sided tape that's fairly strong. I like to use score tape or its equivalent because it is very strong and my box is not going to pop apart. You know, if I give somebody a gift card set, the box isn't going to like fall apart on them as they're storing gift cards and not waiting to use them. Okay, we're going to do the same thing to the front. On the front of the box, I might have to flip it over to cut it because I might not be able to see my score lines on this busy paper. So we'll show you that. But just remember, you're always putting your tape on the front side. And you probably will make that mistake at some point. I did, because I flipped it over to see my lines to cut it, and then I ended up putting the tape on the wrong side. So see how it's a little bit easier to see it on this side if you have a busy pattern? Not so much when it doesn't matter when you have a solid, but when you have a busy pattern. Now if you're doing a greeting card, you don't need to add that 1/8 of an inch. For some reason, when you're doing a box with a greeting card, I think because the paper's a little thinner, or maybe because the stock is slippery, if you do add that 1/8 of an inch, your box is going to be too loose. Okay, it's just something I discovered while I was doing greeting card ones, just to see if I could recycle some greeting cards. So again, adhesive on the right side. So I'm just going to tear off I'm going to eyeball what I'll need for 4 tabs. Any excess adhesive hanging over the edge can just be folded back on itself before you close the box. And this stuff is nice and strong, so it works out really well. Before you take the liners off of your tape, you want to fold your pieces. Now, if you're using like double-sided tape that doesn't have a liner, I would do the folding first, and then I would apply the tape. And also, if you can't remember what side to put the tape on, then you can fold your box up like this and say, oh yeah, I need to put the tape there. So that's another way to just kind of save you from wasting paper and tape if you're not sure what side to put it on. And then you are just going to remove the liner. Now, if you have a little excess like I do here, when you remove the liner, just fold that back. So basically, the dimensions that you measure, the size you want your box, you're going to take that dimension and add 2 inches if you want an inch deep box. Now, of course, you can make your boxes thicker. I'll show you an example of that, where I used a 2-inch side, 2-inch deep box, but it's the same principle. So I love this because it's so easy to make whatever size you want. Now we're going to do the bottom the same way. We're going to fold. Remember, we fold against the raised part. So as you can see, so you don't get confused if you have a solid cardstock, see the raised part, the indent part. You're going to fold towards the raised part. Okay, when you score your paper and you make those indents, you're actually stretching that side of the paper so it'll be able to fold without cracking. If you don't score, your paper is probably going to crack, especially if you have like a cardstock. Like these cardstocks are all printed cardstocks. And I picked these up at Joann's. I love the patterns in this pack, but you get like 10 sheets of 5 different designs. So after a while, you get kind of tired of using them. So it's kind of nice to have a project like that where you can use up a bunch of them. Like I can make a set of cards and I can make a box to match and not feel like I'm wasting beautiful paper because you have so much of it, you know. And then these solids were also from Joann's, but I didn't like the print quality on a lot of them because they were kind of because they weren't a solid core cardstock. They were a printed cardstock. They had some unevenness, so I kind of have been trying to use that up since I bought them. All right, you can also use this to make drawer liners, especially if you want to make deeper ones, so you can divide up your shallow drawers to store your art supplies. And so then we just put the smaller one inside the bigger one. That 1/8 of an inch just gives you enough room for the cardstock. Isn't that cute? Now that will fit 5x7 envelopes and cards. So it's not 5x7 envelopes are actually 5.5 by 7.5, so it's perfect. You can always round up to your nearest 1/4 inch just to make the math a little bit easier and to give you a little bit of wiggle room, but as long as you have it at least that diameter, it will be fine. Now you don't want these any looser than this or the lids will fall off. So let me show you this one here that I did with the greeting card. This one I did not reduce the size of the bottom because I don't know if it's because it's a smaller size or just because this paper is slick and thin. It worked perfectly just to have them the exact same size. So literally you cut right on the fold or just on either side of the fold. So you just kind of trim off that middle fold on your greeting cards and you can make beautiful little boxes. This would be perfect for putting a gift card in. This would be perfect for little like wrapped candies or jewelry or any sort of small gift. You know, you can make a bunch of these up while you're putting your Christmas decorations away with your Christmas cards that you've received and then have them ready next year for giving. And that's another reason why I would use the stronger tape because it'll hold up, it won't like pop in storage. Now one thing I would warn against is glittered paper. Glitter paper does not want to stick. I would use a staple if I was going to do this. I definitely would have to staple it because where I had that glitter, it's not sticking. It's a cute design though. And also, this one was the first one I tried because I did cut the bottom 1/8 of an inch smaller, but that made it way too loose. Okay, and I think it's just due to both the smaller size and also the slickness and the thinness of the commercially produced greeting cards versus a craft cardstock. So I made a bunch of these in different sizes and that 1/8 of an inch for my cardstock worked really good for all these different sizes. I think the smaller the box, you could even do like a 1/16 of an inch if you're going to go smaller. But one thing I thought was neat was adding, doing a 2-inch side. I used a whole sheet of cardstock for the top and the bottom. Of course, I did trim down the bottom piece 1/8 of an inch, but I used a 2-inch wide. I scored on the 2-inch wide part, so I ended up with a deeper box. So this would be great for drawer dividers And of course, you could use whatever material you have. You just might need to, if you're using a thicker material, you might need to add just a smidgen more of a difference. Like you might need to go with a 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch size. If you're doing thinner paper, you won't need as much because there isn't as much thickness to account for, I believe. But that's how you do it with cardstock and greeting cards, and I hope you found this useful. And let me know what you think of the Frugal Friday new feature, the Frugal Friday feature. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked this video. Until next time, happy crafting.